And happy Thursday, Xavier Musketeer basketball fans. This is your weekly Razorcast. That's Jim Reaker and Jeff Zink talking Muskie basketball. And we got a lot for you to talk about today, the unfortunate events of last Saturday. We got a nice bounce back yesterday against Georgetown. Big week coming up in the Big East as we head toward tournament time. But before we do that, as always, we'll welcome the second half to probably the better half of this duo. Jim Reaker, how you doing? Wet and rainy after a warm week, and I'm sure you're getting excited for spring and March Madness.
Oh, it's wet and gloomy outside, but it's awful sunny on the inside to be a Xavier Musketeer fan today. Still number 4 in the country in both polls, the AP and USA Today. RPI, number 3 in the country. Still, most people have him sitting as a number 1 seed for March. Half game ahead in the Big East and control their destiny, can still secure a Big East title with 2 more victories in the regular season.
And that's one of the things we'll talk about in a little bit, what's going on in the Big East. And I love your sunny disposition, but unfortunately it's doused a little bit, not just by the weather, but by the events of last Saturday when Villanova came in and took it to the Musketeers. A good game, a big battle, number 3 versus number 4 for the top of the Big East. But once again, the Wildcats walk away with the win. Not what Xavier fans were hoping for, but a good game. 76 to, that's not the Xavier score I'm looking at.
95-79.
95-79. I'm sure you were there in the middle of that very raucous nationally televised crowd, but just didn't go the Muskies' way.
We played Villanova on last Saturday. I had trouble remembering.
Come on. Now, you were up there. Mr. Jimmy the Reek came out and again said we were going to win, and it didn't happen, but there were some positives, but there were also some negatives. So let's be upfront. Let's be honest. Let's talk about it.
Okay. Hey, remind me at the end. I got a big Jimmy the Reek upset, but I'll tell you at the end here. All right. Yeah, we played Villanova, and the hype was great, and the atmosphere was great. The fans brought it. And here's my take from it. I don't think the Musketeers played all that bad. Now, they didn't play their best game of the year, and probably on Saturday, the only way they had a chance of winning that game was playing one of their best games of the year because Villanova obviously brought their A game, especially Mikal Bridges, who just hit some circus shots, hand in his face, and, that was kind of the difference. But here's the positive. You know me, Mr. Sunny. I have this written down somewhere. At 12:15 remaining in the game in the second half, the Musketeers, after getting down by double digits, I think they were down by 14.5, had whittled it back to 3 points. They fought hard, but again, it wasn't their best game. And, just look at the box score for the Villanova Wildcats. Amari Spelman, 11. Eric Pascal, 11. Mikal Bridges, 25. Jalen Brunson, 11. Dante DiVincenzo. I just got to learn how to say his name because it's going to be one that
DiVincenzo. You got to remember that one. They said it enough. Yeah.
Yeah, 21, and actually freshman Connor Gillespie, I think it is, 10 off the bench. You're just not going to beat a balanced scoring attack from so many directions in so many ways. And it was the Villanova way. Two key stats, I think, that I have here that really, if you tell me these 2 stats, I say we probably lose the game, and that was the turnovers. Xavier didn't do bad, 11. We always talk about, try to keep it right at 10 or below. But Villanova, and this is why they're so good, they only turned the ball over 6 times the entire game. So they don't have a lot of empty possessions. And the other stat that I think tells the story is the assists. Villanova had 25 assists to Xavier's 15, and that just shows you that they were playing together helping each other out. And again, their scoring totals show you that. So, I seriously, I even right after the game, I left there going, oh, well, didn't play that bad. Didn't play well enough to beat maybe the best team in the country. And my other thought, looking forward, hopefully maybe there's one more meeting in New York in a couple of weeks. And you know what they say, it's hard to beat a real good team 3 times. And Xavier's a real good team.
Yeah, there was lots to come out of it. You're right. They hit a Villanova team that decided to come in. The stats that you skipped over, which is very Villanova-esque, even going back to the year that they won it all, 47.1 from three-point line. They were hitting shots after shots after shots from the three-point arc, and the Muskies just couldn't answer that. We only hit 35%, but you're right. They came out playing Villanova basketball. 60% from the field, again, 47 from the arc. The Muskies only 47 from the field total and 35 from the arc. But this is a good team that's starting to peak at the right time. The only thing, I think you stopped your story just a little short. That 12-15 mention, I think, was the key point of the game to me. We were down 14. We'd gotten it back to 3. Tyreek Jones had just missed a layup underneath the basket, which would have brought it down to 1, and that was the time of the double technical. And my feeling is that was big brother saying to little brother, not today. You're going to have to do more than this. And unfortunately, I didn't see the Muskies respond. After that, it was Villanova 33-20 through the rest of the game. I think that double technical just changed the focus of the game. Now, luckily, it stayed calm after that, but the Muskies just couldn't respond from that little punch in the nose given to them by what is sort of a big brother, little brother relationship right now in the Big East.
Yeah, and then right after that, I believe, and this is something Chris Mack talked about, and if I'm remembering this correctly, I think after all that double technical nonsense the smoke was cleared, I think the Musketeers were down by 5. I think they came down and 2 series in a row, and I can't even remember specifically. I remember thinking, hey, we're still in this, and they made 2 bad offensive sets, so to speak. They turned the ball over or something and gave. And I remember that Villanova went down and hit 2 3-pointers right in a row, and it went from 5 to 11. And the Musketeers at that point never really could get back to within striking distance, and it was pretty much over. There was a key juncture, as there is in a lot of games like this, even a game that is this lopsided. And again, you got to think, if Tyreek Jones scores, brings it in 1, and we don't have all that technical nonsense going on, and they bring it down to 1, the Cintas Center explodes and the momentum, and maybe things go a different direction. But I'm not here to talk about what could have been. I'm here to talk about what's going to be, and we look forward. It's a good. In fact, if I would said to you, think about this. Just think about this. If I had said to you in 1984, remember 1984, Georgetown, in the midst of 3 out of 4 years they went to the national championship game, winning one of them. Their key player was Patrick Ewing. If I had said to you in 34 years, this is going to be the storyline. Number 4, Xavier, goes into Georgetown to defeat the Georgetown Hoyas, handily coached by Patrick Ewing. 34 years ago, you would have said, yeah, right. That's where we are.
You're going to deflect from the Nova game, and I love that. So we'll get to Georgetown in a minute. I know you're working on a high from that.
When did we play Nova?
Saturday.
Oh, okay.
When do we do this show? Every Thursday? What did we talk about all last Thursday? No, we weren't talking about the Georgetown game. You didn't want to. You barely had anything to say about the Georgetown game. It's great that you want to move on, but this is that's the situation we are now. when we went back, you're right. After the foul shots, it was just a 5-point game. And after the TV timeout, Najee Marshall went to the free throw line, and we had it back down to 3. But then you're right. There was one 3-pointer, but it was a couple of bad sets and a turnover. But I agree with you here. It was against one of the premier teams in the country, and you hit on it too. This team plays as a team. Their ball movement is amazing. They find the open man. They live on assists. They're very opportunistic when it comes to the steals and getting points off of them. And it's just a program that not only shines in the Big East, but throughout the country. You got to remember, they're just a little over a year removed from a national championship, and but it is something that I think you also said that you hope that they're going to meet the Muskies again in the Big East tournament. And hey, you bring up Big East history. One of those Georgetown games was a Villanova-Georgetown final. A year when the Big East sent 3 teams to the Final Four. So we can't just skip over it. It's still there, and we'll be talking more about that later. But I'll let you have a couple final thoughts, then we'll let you revel in the beatdown of Georgetown last night.
Okay, I have 2 final thoughts, and hopefully I don't forget the second one before I finish the first.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, you're exactly right. In fact, I read an article this week, and I can't even remember where I read it. ESPN, CBS, Fox, probably ESPN. Maybe you read the same article. Talking about the
past 5 years.
About Villanova, how I believe it was 2009. They went to the Final Four, Jay Wright, and the program was on the verge. It was becoming a national program, and his recruiting class became a national. He's getting 5 stars from all over the country, and they turned around and they went through one of his worst periods, and he realized that he didn't want the top players in the country if they were not willing to play the way that he wanted to. He had gotten away from what they call the Villanova way, which is probably a lot like the Butler way. And in fact, I think they barely had a winning record. He took a long look at his program. And in fact, the first step he made to rectify that whole situation was to sign Archie Donaco. There's another one. Why can I not pronounce any of these Nova names? He recruited him, and he was not a top-notch, but he was a Villanova kid. His dad had played football at Villanova. He was from that area. He was a tough kid, and again, he said that when he was bringing in all those top-notch recruits there right after that initial major success, that some of them weren't willing to do what he was going to ask them to do, and he said it was his fault because when he recruited him, he didn't make that point. He says now he makes that point. In fact, he doesn't get those. He does have one. Jalen Brunson was a top, but he sat Jalen Brunson down and said, "Hey, I'm not going to promise you anything. You're going to prove yourself. You're going to do it the way we do it." And Jalen Brunson, of course, obviously bought into that and has done very, very well. So, they got a great program going. You cannot fault them, and they have a little bit deeper history. Yeah, we go back to Raleigh Massimino and 1985, I believe, when they pulled off the major upset of beating the Georgetown Hoyas in the final game with Patrick Ewing. But second point, and then we can move on to the Georgetown game, and this is a great segue. I'm just following the captain's orders. Chris Mack said at the beginning of the Big Ten season, there's going to be some highs, there's going to be some lows, and both you need to shut the door and move forward because that's the way Big East seasons are going to be. We're probably going to lose some games and feel bad. We're probably going to win some games and feel great, but you cannot let that affect the next game. So I'm just following orders from the captain. Hey,
okay, Mister. My opinions count when I get them right, and they don't when they're wrong. Okay. Just a couple things to tie on that, and we go on to Georgetown. I agree with you wholeheartedly. And one thing about both these programs, that you don't see are the one and done. The kids come, they go to college, they play. A lot of them play 4 years, or in the case of somebody like Graham Cantor, they're coming after in their graduate year. I think if you look across the Big East, that's pretty much the way for everybody, that they're going to bring kids in that want to play team basketball, and that's what you want people to do. The other thing is, highs and lows and this and that, but unfortunately, the season's almost over, and you can't have a low after March 3rd. You've got to win, and you got to win tomorrow, actually after the 15th. I mean, you can have a low in the Big East tournament, and we'll be talking a lot more about that next week, obviously. But it's that time where you've got to look at both sides to make a strong run. Of course, Xavier did, and they're in a much better position than they were last year, and they're in a much better position than they were a couple of weeks ago against Georgetown, because now, you look at the similarities. That Georgetown game back a couple of weeks ago in Cintas, where they took us to overtime, the first half wasn't all that much different when you look at it. They were up 2 at halftime in the first game. We were up 2 this one, but what was different about this one was in the second half, Xavier took over, and they didn't need any heroics from Trevon Blewett, who's had an off night. Marshall McCurr and Gooden go for 60 to make up for that, and they had some good bench production. So that's a nice positive in turning around to take what could have been a big low into a good high going into the last week of Big East season. Your turn.
Yeah, exactly. This was kind of a scary game going into it. They took us to overtime, and we've talked before on the Trodcast and here on Thursdays also that Patrick Ewing is turning this team around, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, I'm sure, in the next couple years. But the positive was obviously we won the game. And, it was close at halftime, but Jamarco Pickett, I mean, if Trey Blewett, he doesn't want to play in the Verizon Center or whatever, then Jamarco Pickett wants to play Xavier every game, because he started out, I think he had his first 5 3-pointers and ended the night 6 for 7 from three-point range and tied his career high. I think he had 21, and that was matching his career high from a couple weeks ago at the Cintas Center. So something about Xavier he takes a liking to. Some things that were not really discussed too much yet that I've come across. I think I kind of know the answer. The fact that we saw Tariq Jones back in the starting lineup. Kerem Cantor's kind of fallen off a little bit. Tariq Jones, obviously, Georgetown's one of those teams that do have some big physical guys, and I think that's why Tariq maybe got the start in this game, and why Kerem didn't. And Kerem doesn't play great post defense. He does his job, but Tariq's probably the best defender. Him and Sean O'Mara down low. Great game from Sean O'Mara, and in fact, I would guess that. That position underneath, it might be a rotating door, and I don't think that's a big problem. I think it kind of depends on who we're playing. Somebody plays a little bit smaller, doesn't have the big guy down low, you might see Cantor starting. But if somebody has the big guys, you might see Jones like last night. I think for probably 2 reasons we're going to see Sean O'Mara start against Providence. Number one, he probably deserves it. He's come off the bench pretty much all year, and it's senior night. I think he probably deserves that start. So I look for that to happen. Not sure it will, but I think Mac will probably give him that start. But you got to like that. And we're so deep, and that's what won this game, our depth. They just couldn't keep with us. They played a great first half, and again they kept saying on the broadcast, Georgetown's got to think, man, we've played great, and they look up at the scoreboard and they're only up by 2 points. And Trey Blewett had not scored at halftime, and again he only scored 2 points. Of course, there was on the broadcast, it had to be, and this is Chris Mack, something was said over there because they had the camera on Trey Blewett right at the end of the game. He wasn't even in for the last couple minutes as they put the game away. But as Mac was walking down the bench, he said something to Blewett because Blewett started cracking up. I'm sure it was something like, "I'm sure you don't want to play here again." But he also, I guess, in his press conference, which I did not find or hear yet, but supposedly said that, it's a good thing the Big East tournament is not going to be played in the Verizon Center, and he would suggest that the Washington Wizards, who play their home games there in the NBA, probably shouldn't draft Trey Blewett because last year when they played there, he only had 1 point. So that's not a good place. But everybody else, picked it up. And we got a Najee Marshall. Oh, my gosh. Is he the star of the future? Has this kid just blossomed into 6'7"? He can score. He can drive. He can shoot the three. He's been a great surprise. We knew he was going to be good. We didn't know he was going to be this good. Of course, it's one of those when you're in the Xavier program, you're like, wow, this guy's going to be good, is the first thing you think, followed by the next thought is, ooh, wonder how long he's going to be here. Because when you start doing stuff like that, you get the attention of the NBA. Quentin Gooden, scary moment. Oh, my gosh. My heart dropped like every other Xavier fan. I don't know if you saw it or not, Jeff, but him and Paul Scruggs going for a ball, going hard, and Scruggs goes into his knee from the side. It was one of those where you're like, oh, and Quentin's face, he was in pain. And then the next thing you see him sitting in the tunnel with his leg propped up with a big bag of ice on it, and you're like, oh my gosh. The thought in my mind was, oh, can we do it again? Can we bring another guard? It's later than it was last year. Can Paul Scruggs take this team over and keep this going? Because this does not look good. Fortunately, about 2 or 3 minutes later, Quentin Gooden was back in the game and, of course, went off and scored 17 of his 19 points in the second half, many of them on drives. And he thinks – I did read a quote where he said, I think it was just the shock. And he says, I was just scared more than anything. And he goes, but it feels – it says it's a little sore. Good thing is the Musketeers don't play now for another week, so hopefully he'll have plenty of time to get treatment and rest. That J.P. Makira had one of his good nights, and, we never know what we're going to get for J.P., but he picked up the slack. Blewett couldn't hit the threes. J.P. had his threes falling, and he was playing defense and making steals and doing what J.P. does. And it just felt good that, that you almost felt it was a business-like attitude. We just got to go to Washington, D.C., and find a way to win this game and move on toward the Big East Championship.
A lot of good points there. The one thing that I got to ask you about, and because it ties into what we were just talking about with Nova, Georgetown, 58% from the three-point line. Is this a fact? The past couple of games, is this a factor we just ran into two really good three-point shooting teams, or are we going to have to make some adjustments on our three-point defense in the next month?
That's a good question. You kind of hope that it's just, they were two good three-point teams, and they are. But to be honest, there have been other teams that have lit it up from the three-point line against the Musketeers. I think that they got to keep trying to get better at that. But, again, if you go back to Saturday against Nova, Eric Pascal hit some –
We played Nova on Saturday? Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah. Eric Pascal hit some circus shots. And then the shot that defined it for me was the last shot before halftime last night. Musketeers had a 1-point lead. You're thinking, and they played – Makira blew out at Pickett and jumped in front of him, and then I think it was maybe Scruggs or somebody else put his hand right in his face, and he threw up an off-balance three-pointer, and you're just thinking there's no way, and you're thinking, wow. They couldn't have defended that last shot any better, I don't think, without fouling, and he still drained it. So it's a concern. I'm not gonna gloss over it and say, oh, no, it's not a problem, because it could be a problem. But here's what the identity of I think this team is. The identity of this team right now is, hey, they can score points. And their defense it's not horrible. It's not maybe what we've seen in the past. But maybe it doesn't have to be what it's been in the past. And here's the one other point that I've seen, and we've seen this all year, really. when they need a stop in a key point of a game, almost every time they have come up big at the end of a game where it's like, I remember at Creighton, I think Marquette the first time. There's just been so many times it seems like it's like you need to stop right now, or you need 2 or 3 stops in a row to put this game away. And it seems like when that is the case, they've done it. So that's the positive I take out of that. But defense is a concern, but I don't think it's going to change much overnight.
All right.
Yeah. We are who we are.
Okay.
And, we go forward.
And then going forward, let's talk about Providence, where we get that very interesting situation last night in Rhode Island, where they had to suspend the game due to dampness on the court in the Dunkin' Donuts Center. They're going to take it to campus to finish up today, and that could be an interesting result because it's against Seton Hall. Seton Hall was up by 9, I think, when they suspended it. And Providence, though, is kind of on a downward tilt right now. They've lost 2 of their last 3, but they did throw in that win against Villanova between them, so they can be dangerous. But one of those losses was by 17 to cellar dweller DePaul, so they're fighting for their tournament lives, but they are still in 3rd place in the Big East. I mean, they're sitting at 8-6, 17-10. Of course, the result, Seton Hall could throw that off a little bit because Seton Hall's at 18-9, so they could end up 17-11 and 8-7 and drop a little bit in the standings. But you've got a team, and this is the part of it that the Muskies have to remember, a team that beat us in January by 9 to snap a 10-game win streak.
Yeah, you look at those standings, and that brings up an interesting point that I was going to make. It's kind of settled itself out a little bit. Xavier and Villanova, I believe neither one can finish lower than 2nd, so they're going to have the top 2 seeds, and obviously both of them going to be in the NCAA. And what a feather in the cap for the league if both of them do remain number 1 seeds. That would be great, but they're going to be high seeds in the NCAA. But here's the issue for the Musketeers and the Wildcats both. You got that group. It's Providence, Seton Hall, Creighton, and Butler. They're all right there in the middle, and most of the experts still have them all in the NCAA tournament because of some losses, both to the top teams and a couple to some of them have lost some of those the 3 that have obviously played very well lately, Georgetown, DePaul, and St. John's. But I see those 4 teams in the middle as well related to Xavier last year, back against the wall, wounded, hungry, whatever word can you use. Got to win this game. This would be a signature win. This would get us in the tournament. So that's the fear with Providence, that they come into the Cintas Center and beat Xavier there. That might be their ticket to the NCAA. So the Musketeers got to be aware of that. And but on the other side of the coin, we could put Providence on the theme we had earlier in the year. They're now on their revenge tour, and they're not going to take them lightly. They know that the Friars can beat them because they've done it already. And the other factor you're going to throw into it, and I make this point too, missed it a little bit when we were talking about Georgetown, it's going to be senior night. Senior night in the Cintas, and an emotional time. And the point I was going to make that I missed here in my notes, with that win last night, O'Mara, McCura, and Blewett have 100 wins during their tenure at Xavier. And that's what a great accomplishment. Think of that. In their 4 years, they've averaged at least 25 wins. And that's only going to go up. And, in fact, the record is going back to 2006 through 2010. Not a marquee name, but again, another Xavier guy that did the dirty work and actually still playing over in Europe, and that's Jason Love. From 2006 to 2010, he was part of 108 wins. So, and that's I think within their reach. It's going to take winning out here in the regular season, make a little bit of a run in both the tournaments. But we hope they can do that. So, yeah, it's going to be a tough game. It's a 6:30 start again. I like the 6:30 start, especially when they're home, because it's kind of tough to get down there by 6:30. But I'll be there, of course.
You'll find a way. Yeah. It's senior night's always a special night, and I think that's going to add the impetus to get the Muskies past that. And I know you'll be there cheering them on. And of course, a big part of it, we've just sort of hinted at it, is even though we've lost twice to Villanova, this is the only other in-conference loss we had was to Providence, so we want to measure that out. Xavier is still in a position to possibly win the Big East outright. I mean, even if they tie, I don't believe they technically go with tiebreakers in terms for the tournament seeding they do, but Xavier would still be a Big East champion, even though Villanova beat them twice. But Xavier has the easier route in the next week. Providence at home on senior night. Then they have to go to DePaul, which is now back where they are, and their only team with an under 500 record, whereas Villanova has two tough road games against teams, like you just said, fighting to get into the NCAA. So, you're the one that's always rooting somebody to top Villanova, as most Muskie fans are. Can we get the Blue Jays or the Pirates, or even possibly that last home game against Georgetown, have one of them pop up and beat Villanova, and the Muskies end up with the Big East title outright?
Well, I have this written down. This is what I was going to ask you here, and I can lead right into this. You set this up perfectly because, we don't even plan it that well.
That's why they pay me no money. Yeah.
So here's the situation. Musketeers have finished their season. They have their record. Villanova has one game left, and if they win that game, it's going to be a tie. If they lose that game, the Musketeers are going to win it outright. You have the choice, and you've studied this for the last 3 months, so you can make an educated answer here. If you could choose, who would you have the Musketeers, who would you have the Wildcats play and where? The where part's probably pretty easy, but who would you want them to play if it came down to that one game and the Musketeers winning it outright?
Last game? Well, I mean, it isn't. Because that last game is against Georgetown, and they've owned Georgetown.
I'm in hypothetical situations.
I know you're in hypothetical here, but I'm in the real world. You can do whatever it is. I mean, Creighton has had their number, and so has Seton Hall in the past. So either one of those teams is a team that you want to play, especially in those home arenas. More at Creighton than at Seton Hall. The Dunkin' Donuts Center, it just doesn't fill up. It's a big venue and doesn't always get the big crowd. And that was one of the things last night in D.C. playing in the Verizon Center. They only had about 8,000 fans in a place that's built for NBA, so it holds 2021. So it's a different atmosphere. I'm saying it's not going to come down to that last game.
No.
Let me say, is Creighton, or is this your big upset prediction that you set up earlier that you may have forgotten about that you're going to get in anyway?
Man,
are they going to get through this?
This has just been a weird day.
Yeah.
It's like we're on the same wavelength. Yeah. I'm thinking Creighton's going to get them Saturday afternoon. Yeah. Tough atmosphere. It's not really hard. Tough atmosphere. When they're on, they shoot the three well. They have given the Wildcats fits before, so I just get a feeling. And also Seton Hall, I don't know if you saw this, and I heard he's out for at least Desi Rodriguez, and I think it might have been because of that floor, sprained his ankle very seriously last night. He's out for a week, so even though that game is at Seton Hall, he's been probably their best player down the stretch here, and he may not play against them. So, yeah, I'm thinking Saturday, 2:30 in Omaha, Nebraska. Actually, it'll be 1:30 in Omaha, Nebraska. That maybe the Creighton Blue Jays are going to do the Musketeers a favor, and we know it's tough to play out there. The Musketeers had to get a controversial call to pull that game out, right? So
they did.
Of course, that's one of those things that it almost feels like maybe this is their year. And of course, I am not going to. If it's a co-championship, we're hanging a banner, baby. I don't care. And it'd be nicer. Mm-hmm. It'd be nicer if it was outright, but but I felt last night. I felt like the Musketeers have arrived to a point where they're very focused. They did what they needed to do. They took care of business. And, again, they've been that team all year, but I think they've really, it's tough getting through that January and February, and they could see the light at the end of the tunnel, and they realize I'm a little bit concerned about going to DePaul that last Saturday because they've kind of been a team that have given us some trouble, especially up there. I think they've beaten us a couple times since we've entered the Big East up there. So, that's but I feel like this team will just be so focused that they know they're better and they'll take care of business, and there's not going to be any lapses at this point. It's easy to see the finish line. So that's where I am. But, yeah, I'm calling it. Creighton's going to upset Villanova, and Xavier's going to win it outright, and we're going to celebrate in the streets of Cincinnati for at least 10 minutes before we move to the NCAA tournament.
Well, Victory Park will earn its name, and we'll be talking more about that next Thursday on the Razorcast. Of course, you can join us on Tuesday for our Troutcast, two really old guys talking NCAA basketball, and an exciting end to a fantastic and wacky regular season that continues to be wacky even with games last night. So it's anybody's game, and that means that Xavier could go all the way. We're hoping they're having another run like they did last year. So let's finish off, as we always do, with the trivia and tidbits.
Trivia. Now, this will be a challenge, but I got to follow up. It's even tougher if you get the first one right. So, but and this is a thinking question. You have.
Oh, you're going to let me think? You're not going to put me on the clock? Okay.
No, I'll put you on the clock, but you still put. All right. So, carefully worded question again. Of the current. That's a key word right there. Current Big East members. Those are the 10 that are in the league right now.
Uh-huh.
How many national championships have there been between the 10 current members of the Big East? Because obviously UConn, Syracuse, there's been other former Big East members who won it. But of the current 10, how many national championships do they share?
2. Well, they don't share. They don't even have it. There's 3. There's 4. I'm going to go with 4. That's 2 for Nova, 1 for Georgetown, and 1 for Marquette.
You are good. That was a follow-up question. We are just on the same page today. You're just like you're reading my mind. Mm-hmm. It's really tough. So I'll give you an even tougher
it's a quick read.
Follow-up question. Between those 10 members, how many national runner-ups have there been?
Oh, well, that's an interesting one. Butler's got 2. We know that. And Marquette's probably got at least 1. Georgetown's got 1. DePaul, I don't know if they were ever runner-up. They made a couple of Final Fours. We got Butler 2, and Georgetown's got that 1. Let's just throw a couple more in there. I think Seton Hall came close once too. Let's go with 5.
5?
Yeah.
9. You know where 9. You messed up?
Where?
Georgetown has 3. Patrick Ewing had 2. Patrick Ewing was there 3 out of his 4 years, but they lost 2 of them. Seton Hall, 1989, lost to Michigan. You got the Butler ones. Yeah, Marquette did have 1, I think, to North Carolina State in 74, before they came back and won it in 77. The one that is kind of obscure, St. John's, 1952. Villanova. Villanova has 2, I think. 1 in 1971. I didn't remember, but it probably was UCLA, kind of in our younger years. But yeah, I don't know if I got them, but I know the answer is 9. I don't have it all written down, but I did kind of look through. But you did a good job.
You got to get your researchers on top of this, man. I mean, come on, you can just be yelling out a number. You got to back it up. But that's good. It's good stuff. Great programs across the board with rich histories. And as you alluded to earlier, their histories are coming back to them with people like Chris Mullen coaching at St. John's and Patrick Ewan coaching at Georgetown. And you bring up that big run by Georgetown, but there was the one Final Four where we had the three teams. That 85, the year Villanova won its other one. They beat Georgetown and Chris Mullen and St. John's.
Who was the third? Was the third one Seton Hall that year? Oh, St. John's. Okay.
St. John's.
Okay.
Let's say it again.
Was Mullen on that team?
Chris Mullen.
Did you just say that?
Yeah.
Did you just say that? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm used to it by now. Yeah.
My adult ADD just kicked in a little bit. So.
Good stuff all the way around. Let's finish up with a couple of tidbits, and you can come back and join us on Tuesday and Thursday. A couple quick happy birthdays first. Happy 84th, if you're still with us, is the main Sparky Anderson, big name here in Cincinnati, manager of the Big Red Machine, 3-time World Series champion, twice with us, once with Detroit. He was born on this day in 1934 in Bridgewater, South Dakota. And a big basketball birthday goes out. Happy 68th to Dr. J. Happy birthday, Julius Irving. He played his college ball at UMass. And an amazing thing, it's only happened to 6 players over time. I didn't look it up. I just went by this stat, so let's check that. He averaged 26.3 points and 20.2 rebounds before leaving after his junior year to join the ABA Virginia Squire, one of those first leaving early type of situations. Of course, he only had 2 years of college ball because at that time the freshmen still could not play. But the big tidbit today, and this is in honor of our ladies hockey team who brought home gold last night in Pyeongchang in a shootout against their rival Canada. We harken back to 1980. On this date, 38 years ago, was the famous Miracle on Ice, where the college kids...
Still hear Al Michaels saying, "Do you believe in miracles?"
Yeah, that's why they call it the Miracle on Ice. Coach Herbrooks' team defeated the heavily favored USSR team 4-3 on a goal by team captain Mike Peruzioni and great goalkeeping by Jim Craig at the Olympiad in Lake Placid, New York. A couple days later, they would finish the Miracle by taking home the gold medal after defeating Finland 4-2. And what most people may not remember is in that Olympiad, Jim, it's not like now where you go to the gold medal round and you go to the medal round and you play a semifinal and then a final. Back then it was a round robin. So even after beating the Soviets, if the U.S. would have lost to Finland and they would have probably gone to goal differential, they might not have even medaled if they hadn't defeated Finland. But they did, and they took home the gold medal with the Soviets getting the silver and Finland the bronze. And keep watching the Winter Olympics as they go through, and they'll be all done, and we'll have the stage to ourselves come March Madness. Next week we'll be able to talk about the end of the Xavier season and get hyped up about the Big East tournament. And on the Razorcast, we'll probably be talking about our players of the year and coaches of the year in each conference as they finish up. So get ready for that, as well as talking about some of those teams' tournaments. So
Trodcast.
Our Trodcast. Okay.
You said Razorcast.
Okay. Now you listen to me. Now you listen to me. All right.
Of course, it's okay because that's why we call it the Trodcast, because it's two really old guys who sometimes forget what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm. Okay, but we will never forget this. Until next time.
Go Muskies.